and we are continuing in the theme of embracing our emotions. And today the topic is finding joy, which is an interesting topic, right? When we think about what's happening in the world. So we're going to dig a little deeper in that and explore that. We have Lori Carlson with us today. Lori is a practitioner student, almost to be a licensed practitioner. She finished her written test, and now there's her project and her orals, and then she's a full-fledged practitioner. So I'm happy she's here today. She will share practice and some ideas about joy that are very unique. So I'm going to talk about this idea of how principle is our home base. And if somebody doesn't know what I'm talking about with principle, you're in the right place, because I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And then to be mindful of whether we are in that or not. It is just a guide, and that guide can lead us to a very simple practice of any of the spiritual practices that we do throughout our day or week. So my name is Frankie Timmers, and I'm the spiritual director here at Center for Spiritual Living Morristown. And you can visit us on all kinds of platforms. Find us by going to Center for Spiritual Living Morristown. There's all kinds of events that are coming up that I will tell you about a little bit more about later. And then there is a place for you to make comments, ask questions. Maybe let us know what you would like us to talk about. So we are going to start with our Namaste practice, which is where you get to say hello to one another. Namaste is the Sanskrit word for I bless the divinity in me. My divinity blesses the divinity in you. So really take that in, because that's like a big concept, right? So let yourself feel it in a deeper way. So just place your hands together and bow to somebody and say Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste. Namaste. Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste, Lord. Namaste.
And let's do an opening treatment, which is our word for affirmative prayer. So right here, right now, as I close my eyes and I draw my attention from the outer world, I arrive at this rich, powerful, beautiful, magnificent inner world, which is where I experience my connection with the divine. And so when I say I, my, me, I am speaking from that place to that place. So it's another extension of our Namaste practice. And so right here, I claim spirit as my home base, truth as my home base, the place of sanctuary within me where I find rest, sustenance, healing, and the experience of devotion. And so today I am willing to live there more than not by strengthening the practice that I already do, or deepening the practice that I'm already experiencing, because I live in the infinite universe of the oneness of all life. And so that means it's never ending, that more and more is available. And so today I trust that journey of awakening. I trust that place of holy communion that is happening right where I am, right in my heart, my mind, my body, my soul. And I'm deeply grateful for it with every breath and every heartbeat, because it is a sacred privilege that is mine to be lived. And so it is.
And so it is.
So when I ask people, what is the basic principle of the science of mind? Most of the time, there's like a, except for you, of course. So when I say, what is the basic principle in our teaching, what would you say?
We're all one.
We're all one.
It's done unto you as you believe.
It's done unto you as you believe.
Love is all there is.
Love is all there is.
Change your thinking, change your life.
Change your thinking, change your life. Yeah, these basic ideas and these basic principles are right there, right? Are we always practicing them?
No.
No. No, we aren't always practicing them, which is kind of a gift, because it means that there's room for more. So if you're saying, I'm practicing that 90% of my life in New Jersey traffic, in the grocery store, with the person I struggle with, the person I have a hard time with, no matter what it is, that's when we then get to add that awareness and bring it to it, right? And so we say God is all there is. You can call that by any name, right? Some people don't like the word God. So like Frankie said, well, love is all there is. So we have used the 7 qualities, the 7 aspects of God for a long time because they come from the writings of Thomas Troward, where he says God is love, God is light, God is wisdom, God is peace, God is power, God is beauty, and God is joy. And so those are the basic principles. So when we're not in peace, in joy, in harmony, in wisdom, in love, we have to remember that that's our true nature. I realized something this week that I shared with our practitioners, where I realized that I had lost my joy. It may not seem that way to most people because it wasn't obvious, I think. The people who are closest to me noticed when I was going through my healing experience last year. And when I talked to them how my heart aches for what's happening in the world, where all the wars are, besides Ukraine. They just won the Eurovision Song Festival, yay! Which is like something I grew up with. And so there are many conflicts, many wars happening at the same time, or just poverty, where people don't have enough food. And so I realized between all that, COVID, my health challenge, the world at war, that I lost my joy. And so I was exploring that because there's many levels of that, many layers of that. And what I decided was, darn it, I'm going to choose joy. I choose joy because that is my natural state. I have always felt that, and no matter what happened in my life, I never let anyone steal that from me. I never let anything steal that from me, even though temporarily it might have felt lost. This time it felt like it was bigger, like the world was stealing my joy. And I decided, no, because it's important for us to remember those principles and to keep them as home base because that's our practice, that's our gift to the world. And so there's this beautiful old legend that shows up in many of the ancient wisdom teachings and religions. And it's a legend where human beings were gods, mostly Hindu tradition and the Sufi tradition, right? But they so abused their divinity that God decided to take it away from them and to hide it where it could never be found. And so the story goes like this: where to hide their divinity was the question. So Brahma, the main god, called a council of the gods to help him decide. And they said, let's bury it deep inside the earth. But Brahma said, no, 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 they'll start digging and they'll find it. And then the god said, well, let's then sink it in the deepest part of the ocean. And Brahma said, no, no, not there, because they'll learn to dive in the ocean and they'll find it. Then the god said, let's take it to the top of the mountain and hide it there. And Brahma once again replied, no, that won't do either, because they'll eventually climb every mountain and once again take up their divinity. Then the gods gave up, and they said, we don't know where to hide it, because it seems that there's no place on earth, in the sea, that human beings will not eventually reach. Brahma thought for a long time, and then he said, here is what we will do. We will hide their divinity deep within their own being, the center of their own being, because humans will never think to look there. all the gods agreed that this was the perfect hiding place, and the deed was done. And since then, humans have been going down to earth, digging, diving, climbing, and exploring, searching for something already within them. Isn't that a great story?
Yeah.
And so what we learn and what we experience is that those qualities, love, light, peace, joy, power, and wisdom, are qualities that are already within us. They are our birthright. They are essential nature. They are our true beingness. They are who and what we always have been, always will be, always are, but what we forget. And it's in our forgetfulness that we find spiritual practice. And so, in a way, there is no need to seek. There's just to remember that it's already within us. And so that's what mindfulness is about. Mindfulness is a big word in the world right now. You see it on the news, it's in commercials, everybody uses it, it's a very popular New Age word. But it's a word that we have been working with, talking about, experiencing and teaching and learning for a long time. It means to fully be in the present and just notice what you're noticing. That sounds easy, right? But if you think about it, that's where addiction slips in. That's where distraction slips in. That's where I'm so busy slips in. That's where, oh, I gotta go do this first, or do that first, or I gotta check my phone, right? And so, yeah, mindfulness, being fully in the present moment, means just noticing and just witnessing. And then bringing to mind a principle. Maybe the one you just spoke, shouted out. Maybe one of the 7, peace, power, joy, wisdom, beauty, love. And so we look at those principles and we say, how is this principle at work in the moment? And then we go, celebration! I'm good. I feel good. I feel connected. I feel alive. I feel abundance. I am blessed. Or you may notice an obstacle to that principle. You might notice that you're not as peaceful. You might notice that you're stressed. You might notice that you're worried or feel anxiety. You might think about lack or loss or any kind of limitation. Being mindful in the absence of the principle is just as powerful, because that's like a fault line or a growing edge. That's where we get to kind of go, oh, that's so interesting. Our tendency, our human tendency, is to say, no, and run away from it. But where does it go? It goes where we go. So it will find us again, right? And so it is that awareness that there's a principle that is available in us, that is ever present, that we can focus on. Either celebrate it or decide to bring it into our awareness. And then we're observing it in action. Here's the principle. This is how I'm observing it in action. Or this is where I notice there has to be an obstacle because I'm not experiencing it. And the obstacle is never out there, right? It's always in here. And so we can ask ourselves, what steals my joy? We can ask ourselves, what steals my peace, my power, my wisdom, my beauty, my love, my light? That's a good question. And then we respond. Because in the mindfulness, it's not just noticing, but it's then doing something with it, moving into action, making a choice. That's the practice. So the quote that I put on the blurb that says, between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our faith, our freedom. Is not, I attributed it to Viktor Frankl, but I found out that it's not his. So that's a quote that has been attributed to him, who wrote in Man's Search for Meaning, but it really is from Rollo May, who was a psychiatrist, a psychologist in the 60s, and he wrote it in an article called Freedom and Responsibility Re-Examined, We're still trying to figure out exactly where it comes from and how it fits, but apparently it's a trait of Jerome May, and it's about the power of mindfulness. And so the question then is, what do I choose? Because even not choosing is choosing, right? Even not choosing is choosing. It's just not conscious. Personally, I choose joy at the moment. Tomorrow might be peace. And so I have this idea where there's like an acronym, right? POP. Principle, opportunity, or observation, how it's in action, and then the practice. But I changed it to poop. Because changing it to poop made me laugh too, made me smile too. And it's just more, oh, I'm in a poop. Let me think. First, what's the principle that's operating or that I would like to have operate? Let me observe how it's at work. Let me notice the obstacle, the second O, and then let me slip into a practice. So next time you're having a poop, you can use that to think about it. We learned from the Book of Joy, which this was in the Science of Mind magazine, and if anybody still wants to purchase that, I have a couple here. But this month's Science of Mind magazine on May 9th quoted from the Book of Joy, which is written with Dalai Lama and Thich Nhat Hanh, and it talks about how living in a state of joy is an integral part of our job, it says, as a spiritual being having a human experience. Living in a state of joy or a state of peace, power, wisdom, beauty, grace, you name it, you choose the principle, is an integral part of our job as spiritual beings having a human experience. It's our contribution. And so we get to choose a very simple practice. If you're somebody that says, I don't want to add anything, I already do enough spiritual practices, I'm really set in that, I'm good, think about how you can take the practice that you are doing into a deeper way, into a deeper experience, into a deeper spiritual life as a spiritual practice throughout your day, right? So if you do a treatment in the morning for peace of mind, maybe there are times in your day where that can become your practice, where you're not fully experiencing it. So that's taking it to a deeper place. It's kind of like saying, I'm going to go back to basics with my practices. Like in Zen, they say beginner's mind. It's kind of looking at life in a fresh new way. And there we find that the simplest way to work with the obstacle is the simplest practice. And the simplest practice I know when I'm in an obstacle is gratitude. Just begin to practice gratitude. It says it is not joy that makes us grateful, it's gratitude that makes us joyful. Anonymous said that. It's not joy that makes me grateful, it's gratitude that makes me joyful. And so when we don't feel light, when we don't feel loving or loved or lovable, when we don't feel wise, when we're not feeling peaceful or powerful, when we can't see the beauty in the world, when we don't feel joy, we can feel grateful until we're mindful enough to get in touch again with the truth of our very being that wants to be lived in the moments when we forget. And so it's our job, because those of us on the spiritual path are the ones to transform what wants to be transformed, to be the healing presence, to hold a vision for a world that works for everyone, to hold a vision for peace no matter what we see or hear about in the news. And we're needed. We're needed. We are needed to see the peace that's possible, even when it doesn't look like it. We're still the ones to hold that higher vision so that it may manifest. So let's lift the veil, and then you get to experience Lori.
I'm raising the veil between me and my God. No separation, no distance at all. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. I'm raising the veil between me and my God. No separation, no distance at all. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. I'm raising the veil. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. I'm raising the veil. I want to know you. Oh God, I'm raising the veil. I want to see you. Oh God, I'm raising the veil. I want to hear you. Oh God, I'm raising the veil. I want to feel you. Oh God, I'm raising the veil. I want to praise you. Oh God, I'm raising the veil. I want to love you. Oh God, I'm raising the veil between me and my God. No separation, no distance at all. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. I'm raising the veil. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. I'm raising the veil. God is right here in my heart. Where I stand is mine. God is right here in my heart. Where I am is mine. God is right here in my heart. Separation, I'm raising the veil. Raising the veil. God is right here in my heart. Where I stand is mine. God is right here in my heart. Where I am is mine. God is right here in my heart. Separation, I'm raising the veil. Raising the veil. I'm raising the veil.
So, choosing joy, that's a topic that's very close to my heart. Reverend Frankie said that gratitude is the easiest way to come into a state of joy, and this I believe. I do a gratitude journal every night, have been for years, and it is a very important spiritual practice for me. But today we're going to take a look at a slightly more difficult practice, at a deepening joy, at a deepening way to access joy. And this is the Buddhist practice called mudita. And mudita means sympathetic joy or appreciative joy. And it is about finding joy in the happiness of others. Not always an easy thing to do, right? I mean, it's easy to be joyful for someone you love when something good happens to them, but what about for that person who gets the promotion you wanted at work? Or the person who cuts in front of you online in a rush? Or just all the myriad ways that other people's joy doesn't always bring us joy. That is why it is a practice. That is why it is something that we intentionally bring our awareness to and practice so that we can bring it into our daily lives. The Dalai Lama says, it only makes sense to cultivate happiness for the happiness of others, because then you increase your own chances of happiness 6 billion to 1. Of course, today it's more like 8 billion. But yes, if you can truly learn and practice and train yourself and cultivate the ability to find joy in other people's happiness, the opportunities for joy are limitless, correct? So why would we not want to do that? So how do we do this? Okay, well, we start small. We start with the people we love. We start with the people that it's easy. And then we move that awareness out to a neutral person, someone you don't know, that you don't have feelings about one way or the other, and you are happy for their happiness. And then you move it to a difficult person, someone who you may not like, or someone who may be taking that job from you, or someone that's just more difficult for you to actually appreciate their happiness. But we know that they have a right to be happy too. And so we practice finding joy in their happiness. And then we radiate this out to all beings everywhere. Now, I have practiced this. I'm not very good at it, but I did have a moment of complete joy when I got to really experience this. When I was waitressing, and you know, it's a cutthroat kind of business, like that should have been my table, and one of my coworkers got a huge tip, and just spontaneously, I was full of joy for her. And my first thought was not, why wasn't that me? You know, that should have been my table. You know, it was really, I am so happy for you. And let me tell you, the difference in that feeling compared to the competitive feeling of why wasn't that me, or, you know, this somehow your happiness takes away from my happiness, is such a wonderful feeling that I wish everyone to experience that on some level. So we're going to do a little practice today. We're going to be accompanied by Reverend Frankie on the flute. So I invite you all to close your eyes and just come into a space, an inner space. And you're going to repeat these phrases after me, just gently, like a whisper in your mind. So I invite you to bring into your consciousness someone you love. Someone who's easy to be happy for. Could be a friend, a family member, a mentor. And just see them smiling and happy. Perhaps remember something good that happened to them, a particular moment. But really see their face. See them smiling. And feel that joy. Now repeat to yourself, just gently in your head, I'm happy that you are happy. May your happiness continue. May your happiness grow. May your happiness radiate out to all beings. Now, I invite you to bring into mind a neutral person. Perhaps it's the clerk at your grocery store or the attendant at your gas station. Someone whose face is vaguely familiar, but who you have no real feelings about one way or the other. Now bring into mind their right to be happy. And see that face smiling with joy. And say to yourself, I am happy that you are happy. May your happiness continue. May your happiness grow. May your happiness radiate out to all beings. Now, from this place of loving intention and joy, I invite you to bring into your mind the face of a difficult person, someone who gives you trouble, who you don't particularly like, someone that you struggle with. Could be a coworker or a political figure, whoever that is. See their face and see them smiling and happy. And now say to yourself, even if it's difficult to mean it right at this moment, this is a practice. I am happy that you are happy. May your happiness continue. May your happiness grow. May your happiness radiate out to all beings. And so now we take this joy in the happiness of others and we radiate it out to all beings. I am happy that all beings are happy. May the happiness of all beings continue. May the happiness of all beings grow. May the happiness of all beings radiate out to all other beings. Now, how do you feel? Having spent this time finding joy in the happiness of others. Has it filled your heart? Will you be in a better place to go out into the world? Because you have this joy in your heart. I know how important compassion for the suffering of others is, especially in this world in which we live. but it is just as important to have joy for the happiness of others. And so I invite you to take this practice, use it in your poop practice that Reverend Frankie talked about. It can be the final P, and bring it out into your daily lives. So from this place of joy and happiness, we're going to move into our time of conscious giving. So whether you're giving here in an envelope or texting to give, which I know is Reverend Frankie's favorite, I do it on the website. There's a donate button on the website. You can also do it through Breeze. There is a form up here with all the ways you can give. And for everybody out there in virtual land, you can click on our website and donate there. But I invite you to find that place within yourself where you are full with this community. Recognize how this spiritual community fills your heart and fills your spirit, and give from that place. Give from that abundance of joy and happiness and spiritual connection that this center provides. It is your giving that allows us to be here, that keeps us going. And we all know in the law of giving and receiving, in the law of circulation, that as you give, so you receive. So the more you give to that which fills your heart, the more you receive to fill that heart. So I invite you to bring your hands over your heart and to just spend a moment thinking about what it is that you are going to give to this center. Whether that is financially, volunteering, spreading the word to others, whatever that is, just make a commitment to give back to the center that fills your heart and feeds your spirit. And so from this place, we're going to move right into our closing treatment, which is our word for affirmative prayer. So I invite you to hear these words as if they were your own. So I know that there is one God, one power, one spirit, one presence, one divine creator of all that is, the Alpha and the Omega, that which beats my heart and breathes my breath, which grows everything from the blades of grass to the farthest reaches of the cosmos. That God that is all there is, that is love, life expressing itself. And so right here, right now, I know that I am one with this power, that this power expresses in me, as me, through me. We are each just unique manifestations of this one divine life. And as I know this is true for me, I know this is true for each one here and each one listening. I embrace our oneness in spirit. I embrace our unique individuality as expressions of God. And so right here, right now, I affirm that God is good, that all is good, and that we go forth into our day choosing joy, appreciating others, embracing the principles of which Reverend Frankie spoke. I know that we go forth with expanded consciousness and awareness because of this service here today. And I am so grateful to know that. I am grateful for this teaching, for Reverend Frankie, for our beautiful leadership council, for each one here and each one tuning in. I am grateful to be part of this beautiful consciousness of oneness and joy. And so from this place of gratitude and deep joy, I release this word into the law that can only say yes, knowing that as I think it, speak it, and do truly believe, that so it must be. And I invite you to join me in saying, and so it is.
So it is. Beautiful. Oh, are. Every mountain, God, you are. Every ocean, God, you are. Every canyon, every inch of earth and sky, God, you are. Every morning, God, you are.